As a parent, how do you build legacy of your family values that lasts? Well, first of all, you have to be intentional about it. That's according to the daughter of a family whose values are known nationwide.
Trudy Cathy White is a speaker, author, and former missionary. She and her husband John are grandparents of 16 children and intentionally share their values with each one. Faith and family lead the list of those values, which Trudy learned from her parents, Truett and Jeannette Cathy, founders of Chick-fil-A. In her fourth book, A Legacy That Lasts, Trudy explains how identifying, teaching, and modeling our values will change society.
Please welcome back to the 700 Club, Trudy Cathy White. Trudy, it's great to have you with us today.
Oh, thank you. What an honor to be with you. Thank you for having me.
You grew up in a family where your parents modeled their values on a daily basis. Will you share a couple of your favorite memories of your mom and dad?
Sure, there are quite a few memories that I have of my mom and dad, and so many things that I remember that were important to them in life. One that carried over to me, of course, is their Christian faith, that they raised us in understanding that everything that we have came from the Lord, and that He owns it all, and we are merely to be good stewards of those. So that was something really important that my parents passed down to me, for sure.
You say that we need to be intentional to identify our values and to do that early on. When did you and your husband, John, identify yours?
Well, that's such a great question. We felt like it was super important for our children to understand their values. Once we saw them become young adults and begin to have their own children, we began to talk with them on a regular basis and ask them questions like, what really matters to you in life? And wanted them to identify those values. When they turned it back to us and said, well, Mom and Dad, what are your values? We had to kind of pause for a minute and think we really hadn't identified those or actually written them down. And so we began that little process for our own selves to realize that what really has been important to us over the years. And we identified 5 values: our faith, our family, integrity, generosity, and gratitude.
Those are wonderful. You say in your book, A Legacy That Lasts, that there are 3 questions that we should consider when identifying our values. What are the 3 questions?
Yeah, so the first one I mentioned is what really matters to me. Just to pause and ask yourself, there are a lot of great things we can be doing. We can identify a lot of wonderful values, but we have to ask, what are the most important things to us? The second question I would say is, what values govern my decision-making process? Once we understand what values are important to us, then those guide the decisions that we make on a daily basis. And the third question would be, what values do other people recognize in your life? Because oftentimes we can identify certain values and say these things are important to us, but if people don't recognize that in our life, there must be some kind of disconnect that would cause us to have to reevaluate. Are we really making what matters to us a priority in life?
Well, you have a couple of tools in your book to help identify values. Tell us about those. How do you use them?
Yeah, so I have placed in the back of my book an opportunity for you to kind of go through what I call a value exercise. You could there's like over 100 words that you can look at, and you can create those as little cards. And you just kind of separate, this is important, but maybe this is even more important. And you kind of whittle this list down to about 4 or 5 words is what I challenge you to do, because that gives it something very tangible and manageable in your life to say, these are the things that I'm going to focus on in my life going forward, whether you're an individual, whether you're a couple, whether you're parents or even grandparents. And then you begin to focus on those particular values and begin to live those out in your life. And the dream would be that you preserve those values in a way that you're able to transfer those successfully to the next generation.
You know, one of the things that was so obvious to me in your book was that all of the things that you're talking about generate conversation, generate communication between people. And I think there are a lot of wonderful families who never maybe take that kind of time or go that deep. How important is that?
Yeah, relationships are powerful, and they're the opportunities that we have to build trust. And I think oftentimes parents get deceived a little bit in thinking that, oh, if I give things to my children, that's what's important. But we all know that things that we get, they either break, we outgrow them, we're not interested in them anymore, or we get rid of them. But what I emphasize in my book is that experiences are the things that last. They're the things that create memory for us. So I call those value experiences. If you want to add value to life, create experiences with other people, whether that's with your spouse or with your children. I know for my dad, one of the times my dad, when I was a senior in high school, my father asked me, Trudy, what is something you're going to remember that I've done for you? And in his mind, he told me later he was thinking probably a trip he took me on, maybe an outfit that he bought for me. And I told him, I said, Dad, the thing I'm going to remember is those nights when you came home late from work and you noticed I was still awake, but in my bed, and you came in my bedroom, you sat by me and you said, Trudy, would you like to tell me about your day? I will never forget that my dad took that kind of time to listen to me.
That's really special. You wrote this book at this particular time. Boy, our country, I think, needs so much to have families be tighter, more solidified, building legacy for each other. What is the overall message that you want readers to take away from a legacy that lasts?
Yeah, well, I was inspired to write this because my mom and dad passed away about 7 years ago, 10 months apart from each other. And they had lived in the same house for 57 years. And I was the one, as the only daughter living close by, to go through and clean through their house. And I realized once I had gone through everything that they left, and they left it all, I realized the thing that they left of most value was their legacy. And I realized that the legacy we leave then is the life we're living now. So what I want a reader to get out of this book is to be inspired, first of all, to recognize that you are living your legacy every day and that there are ways that you can identify your values, you can preserve those values, and be successful in transferring those values to the next generation. So I hope it is a sense of encouragement to a lot of readers.
It's really an inspiration. And listen, folks, if you feel like maybe you wouldn't even know where to begin this, everything you need is in the book, A Legacy That Lasts, and it's available wherever books are sold. Trudy, thank you so much for being with us. You set a good standard for all of us.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be with you today.
Bless you.